matter?
Doesn't matter, really. It doesn't matter because the reality of it is the opportunity is the same for me and more importantly for the club. I've said before, whatever happens beyond tomorrow is kind of irrelevant when you think about the opportunity that exists right now, and that is to provide something special for this football club and for the supporters and for everyone who's worked so hard, not just this year, but for the last however years, 15, 16 years been for a trophy and 41 years for a European trophy. I think that, if I was worried about my tenure at this football club, fair to say we wouldn't be in this position because I would have been distracted long ago. I'm pretty good at just sort of making sure that all my focus is on, giving this football club the best opportunity it has had for a while to do something special. And whatever happens after that, mate, I'm very, very comfortable that I'll continue on trying to win trophies wherever I am.
The hierarchy in the football club. My
future is assured, mate. Wouldn't be the first person who changes jobs, mate. We all change jobs. I'm sure you've had more than one job. My future's assured. I've got a beautiful family. I've got a great life. I'll keep on winning trophies till I finish, wherever that is. So don't worry about my future, mate. My future is not entwined with anything, right? My future is assured, provided, God willing, my health remains and my beautiful family is beside me and my friends. There's nothing wrong with my future, mate. Don't stress, mate.
I meant specifically...
Sleep easy at night.
I will try.
I'll be okay.
I will try. But I meant specifically at Tottenham. Is there a scenario where you win the trophy and you think, actually, my job is done here?
No, because I don't think my job is done here. We're just, I really feel like we're building something, and what a trophy does is hopefully accelerates that. So I still think there's a lot of work to be done. That's quite obvious with the way we've sort of, the challenges we've had this year, which I think are well chronicled. But I think there's some reasoning in that, in the context of that. But also there's been some growth that I'd like to see through. But whether that happens or not it's not that important right now. But I don't think, no, far from think this job's finished, and I certainly feel like there's some growth there that we can take this club to where it needs to be.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That depends on your outlook, Dan, but I'll tell you one thing, irrespective of tomorrow, I'm not a clown. I never will be, mate. And you're really disappointed that you would use such terminology about a person who, for 26 years, without any favours from anyone, who's worked his way to be in a position where he's leading out a club in a European major competition, for you to suggest that somehow us not being successful means that I'm a clown, not really sure how to answer that question. Yeah, hopefully that 101st blows tomorrow, mate, not on Sunday. It's hard to sort of kind of contextualise sort of the challenges of the last couple of years. I guess from my perspective, I came into the club with some pretty clear objectives about what the priorities were for the club in terms of taking over. Tried as hard as I can to kind of stick to that process of getting the club to a position where, they can challenge for trophies and at the same time rejuvenate a squad and change the playing style. It's been a fair assignment, and without its, plenty of challenges along the way. But I guess with such a sort of big game tomorrow, there is an opportunity to kind of fulfil at least the main task I was sort of given, and that is to bring trophies to the club.
Next season, Champions League.
As you said, great prize. The significance of Champions League qualification, what it means for every football club to get into the Champions League. It's there are the obvious benefits, but also you get the opportunity to play against the best in the continent. But the club's been in the Champions League before. Hasn't won a trophy for a long time, so that's the most important bit.
To play?
Team U's pretty much the same as last week. No, Lucas isn't available, so pretty much the same as we were as of last week.
Motivate to the younger players in squad.
Yeah, massive to get Sonny back. You know, we were a little bit worried when he picked up the injury because we just weren't sure, you know, how long he was going to be out for. But he worked so hard and to make sure he was back, and really pleased the other night to see him, you know, play 60, 70 minutes, and you could see his sharpness is coming back. But he's so important to the group. He's so important as a leader. He's such an important figure at this football club, and you know it's a big motivation and driver for all of us, including me, to give him a trophy that his career deserves. You know, because again, he's a guy who's come from the other side of the world. Not many players have come from Asia, and it's stayed in the Premier League, the top league in the world for so long, maintaining that excellence. And it would be great to kind of, you know, cap that off with a trophy for him. But he knows, and we all know that we've still got to do the work. He's been in this position before, obviously with the Champions League final, so he has that experience. And I'm sure he'll pass that on to the players.
We've only got time for 2 more, so we'll go.
Is it true?
Yeah, I have to be careful about, you know, who I support, because maybe I'll coach in Brazil one day and they'll tell me, and I end up, I don't know, it's Corinthians or something, and it'll cause me problems. Firstly, Richie, so pleased for him because he's had a tough time, Richie, not just this year, but since he's been at Tottenham. You know, he's had some injury problems. He's never really had a stretch of games, but, you know, and it's been very tough on him, both physically but also emotionally. But he's in a really good place now. Physically, he's worked really hard on his fitness, and you know, he plays with so much passion and determination. Richie, you know, every time he plays, he just gives 100%. He has quality as well, and it's great to have him in the team. I think you know, for us, he provides something different to our other attacking players. He's already made a big impact for us in the Europa Cup, and particularly in the semi-final. And just really pleased for him that through all the difficult times he's had, he's now in a place where he's fit, he's available, and you know, he's excited about contributing. And yeah, I've always loved Brazilian football. I actually played against Vasco da Gama in 1985. They came to Australia, and Roberto Dinamite was playing at the time, and I got his shirt, and I still have it. So every time I visited Brazil, there's always an association with Vasco. Obrigado.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the post-match press conference of the winning 2025 UEFA Europa League coach, Ange Postecoglu.
Thank you.
Ali, starts off.
Congratulations, Ange. I mean, you've told these players throughout they were going to do something special this season. How does it feel to see that realised?
Yeah, look, it's hard sort of to put into words the emotions. Super proud of the players. It's a quote, my favourite Australian Prime Minister, Paul Keating, he said, after an unlikely victory, he said, "This is one for the true believers." And this is certainly one for the true believers, and that means, you know, an unbelievable group of players who never wavered, never lost faith in me and what we were doing. Unbelievable football staff led by brilliant coaches. People who work at the club, you know, from board down, whether that's Lily White House or at the training ground, and supporters. I know people think I've got this sort of fractious relationship, but every supporter I ever bumped into was just so kind in reassuring me that, you know, they believed in what I was doing. I'd never felt, I understand the disappointment we've put them through this year, particularly in the league, but, just seeing them tonight, the impact it has on them. Some of them, it's obviously 17 years since our last trophy, 41 in Europe. Some of them have never had a night like this. So, but, it's a reward for them. And, finally to my beautiful wife and my boys and my family, my friends who, they're all my inspiration because I'm kind of the front man. It's easy for me to sort of take on the responsibility, but they've got no choice but to come along for the ride. And just seeing them out there now on the pitch, smiling faces, couldn't be happier.
Ange, congratulations. I know you've not wanted to make this Europa League run about you, but is this your biggest achievement? You've had some amazing achievements in your career, but given the circumstances, given it sort of became this all or nothing match, is it your biggest achievement?
Look, I feel if I say that, then it diminishes, not for me, the other achievements, but the people I shared them with. But it's definitely been the toughest thing I've ever done, without a shadow of a doubt. And I knew that going into it. You know better than me that this club's had some unbelievable world-class coaches, world-class players, and they haven't had a night like this. So I knew what I was taking on. And it's fair to say that it's been really challenging because, wherever else I've had success by this stage, I've kind of had the faith and trust of everybody. And here it's been different. And I understand that's not a criticism. It's just, I think, because of the club and the way it's sort of its recent history or its history, I don't think they could always ever go all in on one person. And for me, that's always how it's worked well when, people kind of back my vision. So, but within that, I think when we got to sort of the end of January, the end of the transfer window, and I kind of assessed our situation, I just made a decision there and then that this was the trophy we were going to go for. And, it probably was at odds with what other people at the club sort of believed at the time we should do. And that's understandable. But I just really believed we could win. We could win this. And sort of everything we've done since then, everything we've done at training, everything we've done in terms of the games, the teams I've selected is about making sure when these games came around, the Europa games, that we're in the best possible condition to tackle them. And that's come at a cost for sure in the league, and I've got to take the responsibility for that. But I just felt like the end game of winning something was more important, and it was the only way I was going to do it.
Tom. Congratulations.
Thanks.
You've spoken about what a turning point this could be, the growth that the team can get from this victory. How hungry are you to drive this team forward, given the Champions League football next season? Yeah,
very, because we've got a really young group of players, and you can talk to them about success and what it means, but until they feel it, it doesn't become real. And I've got no doubt that all those boys tonight, having this feeling, will want this again. And to get it again, they're going to have to make similar sort of sacrifices. They've climbed the mountain now, so they know that what it takes to sort of get to where we are. And I think that does. It accelerates the opportunities to build a team that can be successful and competitive at the highest level for years to come. So, as I said yesterday, I still feel there's a lot of work to be done. I think that's quite obvious, but not as much work as people may think. People can bang on about our 20 league defeats and where we are, but they're missing the point of what we're trying to build here, or what I'm trying to do anyway. And I really feel that tonight can be a great platform for us to kick on.
You said a minute ago that at the end of the January window you decided full focus on the Europa League. Does that explain the really sort of ruthless, efficient style that we've seen overcome Alkmaar, Frankfurt, Bodo Glimt, and now tonight? And how did you find the players kind of bought into that when that was the plan?
No, that wasn't part of it. But I've always treated, I've had a lot of success in my career, and not just sort of winning leagues, but also, in Australia, I grew up playing finals football to win a championship. So knockout football is always different. You know, all my teams have always played a little bit different in knockout games because you know that you've got to have a real clear game plan. Big games come down to moments. You've got to limit the moments of the opposition. You've got to change your approach. And the players embraced that because, you know, that was always going to be our approach in Europe, and it's why we did well in the Carabao Cup as well. You know, we beat some decent teams in the Carabao Cup, including City, including you know, United, and you know, we beat Liverpool in the first leg, played a similar way. But also it helps that I've got, you know, Van der Ven and Romero and Vicario and Udogie and Porro, you know, all these guys available. And again, that was part of the sort of mindset of making sure they were available for these big games. And I thought the lads handled the whole Europa sort of knockout stages, you know, brilliantly. Knew what we had to do, were really efficient with what we did, and you know, I think got the just rewards.
George.
Hi, Ange. Well done. You mentioned a lot of people at the top there. Your dad's no longer with us, but what would he make of his son doing this, and what does it mean back in Australia as well? Yeah,
no, he's still with me, mate. He's, you know, his voice is in my head all the time, and as I get older, I look in the mirror, I see his face sometimes, which is frightening as it seems. He's with me all the time, mate. My dear mum's in Greece with my sister and my nephews. I'm sure they're over the moon. And yeah, it's massive in Australia and in Greece. You know, I've got family in both countries and friends in both countries, and you know, they've been along for the journey the whole way. And it's hard because you know, I'm big enough and ugly enough to take whatever comes my way, but they get hurt when people sort of come at me and they pay the price, particularly, you know, those closest to me, my beautiful family and my friends, and, you know, they want to defend me. And, you know, I keep telling them it's a small price to pay when you have nights like this. And I've been fortunate. I've had plenty of nights like this, and just seeing them tonight, and I know everyone in Australia, they would have got up early in the morning, you know, they'll be buzzing, and people in Greece, and more importantly, the people here with me, you know, it's another special night we share together.
Tom.
Hi, Ange, congratulations. You talk about backing your vision. I mean, how does a club let go of a manager who's just delivered them their first trophy in 41 years in European competition?
Look, I think I said yesterday, I'm pretty kind of, not relaxed is not the word, because I'd be disappointed if we couldn't continue on this path. But, you know, like I said, it's not a criticism. I understand why it would be difficult for a club like this to buy into one person's vision. You know, I remember even when I signed, you know, it was kind of, you know, the club, I think even Daniel sort of said, you know, we went after winners, it didn't work, and now we've got Ange, and, mate, I'm a winner. I've been a serial winner my whole career. It's what I've done more than anything else, you know. And I know people talk about my football, which I'm very proud of, and I know people dismiss my achievements because, you know, they didn't happen to happen on this side of the world. But for me, they're all hard earned, and all I've done my whole career is win things. And but I understand, you know, look, obviously the way things have gone in the league, you know, people are rightly to be concerned about. Like I said, I don't think there's a true reflection of where we're at. But whatever happens, I said my own sort of belief in what I do doesn't waver, and I'll continue to kind of push on to do what I do.
Ange, well done. It was noticeable at the end, the players were celebrating with unbridled joy. You were standing back quietly. Is that just your style, or was there an element of relief as well?
Oh, there's huge relief. I mean, you ask any manager, and I'm telling you that's the biggest feeling, because you carry the weight of responsibility. I mean, you know, I think this is maybe our 59th game or 60th game this year. That means me and Anthony have been in front of you guys 120 times, you know, plus the extras that we do. I mean, that's probably 150, 160 times I've been a spokesman for this football club this year. And I know everything I say is important. Fair to say I don't always get it right. So all that kind of responsibility weighs on your shoulders. And so it is, it's relief, but also I'm a lot older than those guys, mate. And I've learned to understand that, what makes nights like these memorable is to remember them. So I kind of stand back and just watch everyone else enjoy it, and that's all I need.
James, final one, please.
Congratulations, Ange. I know you said you're sort of relaxed about the situation, but can you just give us an idea of what the next few days are like? Is there a meeting planned with Daniel or with the hierarchy? Because you must want some clarity one way or the other.
No planned meetings. I haven't had any discussions. No one's spoken to me about anything. Maybe they felt like they don't need to, or they were waiting for this game. Look, what I do know is that I'm going to go back to my hotel room, get my family and friends together, open up a nice bottle of scotch, have a couple of quiet ones, get ready for a massive parade on Friday, play Brighton on Sunday, really important, our last home game. We want to finish strong, and then Monday I'm going on holidays with my beautiful family because I deserve it, and que sera, sera.
After the celebrations witnessed yesterday, will you be able to field the team against Brighton?
Yeah, no, we'll field the team. Look, as I've got older, and I used to be a bit different, but I really feel you need to celebrate your achievements properly, and that was kind of my message to the boys, that it's really important, because it's important for them, because they've ones that have achieved it and have done it in a very difficult way. It's important for the people around them, because then they can relax and enjoy it as well. And it's important to make the experience as memorable as possible, so that, when I ask them to climb the mountain again, there's a reason for it, and fair to say they took my words literally, and certainly enjoyed themselves over the last couple of days. And like all parties, there's always one family member that embarrasses you, and you want to keep control of. But fair to say we had a couple of those. But again, doesn't make them bad people, and they're probably the first ones you re-invite to the next party. So boys are all good. We'll be good tomorrow.
Any insight into those moments?
No, I mean, I sort of stayed wide away from it, but I just love seeing the boys. Like I said, it's important the boys celebrate. Look, we've been through a lot, and it's part of sort of how I think you create this kind of winning mentality and bond, because, like I said, I'm sure when they reflect, they'll obviously reflect on the game and the feelings afterwards, but even the aftermath of that, the last 48 hours, and the parade yesterday was just unbelievable. All those things I think are important. Not sure. I should have thought about it a bit more, because as somebody rightly pointed out, sometimes they kill off the main character, so I could be in strife there. Look, I said sort of even before the game that I really believe we're just building something, but a significant win accelerates that, and I really believe that's the case. And I'm not going to put a limit on what we can achieve, but I certainly believe that it's exciting, the possibilities of next year, knowing I've got a group of players now and staff and a club that knows what it takes to win, and wants more of it.
What has Daniel Levy said to you about being the main character next season? Can you now confirm you will be the main character next season?
No, look, I haven't had any discussions. Similar to before the game, I haven't had any discussions with the club. Like I said before the game, maybe they were just waiting for sort of clear air to kind of give me some guidance, but I haven't heard anything from the club.
Is there still a chance either scenario happens? Because it now does it not feel almost that would be a hugely brave call?
I haven't given it, I haven't given a lot of thought. As I said, I just refuse to be distracted by anything in terms of the opportunity that was before us, and since the game, I just wanted to take the opportunity also to enjoy that as well. So haven't thought about it. I assume at some point somebody will tell me something, or if not, I'm just going to roll up next year, and it'll be a bit like Costanza from Seinfeld. I'll just sit in the desk and just get on with my job. Yeah, hard to sort of pin down, because you go through all the sort of range of emotions. I think just tremendous pride more than anything else, because it's fair to say we've had a real tough time this year, and I've said it quite a few times, that could have made my position really, really difficult, more difficult than people even may imagine, because I could have felt very sort of isolated. But the fact that this group of players and the staff that I work closely with just stayed true and still believed in me, just tremendous pride to see that then come to fruition in something so special, and that's why I just love sitting back and watching, the players, the staff, our supporters, all just, rejoicing. Like I said, obviously you take on a great responsibility when you take over, as a manager of any football club. There's a lot resting on your shoulders, and I can tell you every manager, whoever sort of is fortunate enough to win something, he'll tell you the first feeling you have more than anything else is just relief. Relief that all the burden you've carried has been rewarded. It does. It is significant. They are forever connected now, irrespective of sort of what their futures hold. They're always going to be connected. They'll always have the night in Bilbao. They'll always be the ones that broke the drought, and hopefully there isn't another drought like it, and they'll always be remembered for that. But I think it does bring them closer, which again, further I was saying before, that's how you create a winning culture, because I'm sure they want to experience it again together as a group. They want to have another moment. They want to have another night like Bilbao. They want to lift another trophy. They want to have another parade. They probably want to go out again. All those kind of things. I think it does unite them to an even greater extent.
Yep. It's the last game.
Yeah, look, I guess they're the kind of discussions that we start to need to have. But again, without myself gate-crashing meetings, I need to be invited to them. But we'll assess all those things. Look, Matty's done really well for us. We put him in a real difficult position in that, as a young player who hadn't played a lot, probably wasn't fit enough, we just threw him straight in. But he's handled it really well, and I think he's been a real important contributor for us. And he'll definitely play tomorrow at some point, whether he starts or come off the bench. And I'm sure the decisions will kind of look into post-season.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we were. Look, the emotion of the last 3 days, aside from the game itself, and obviously, the players are allowed to celebrate that. But I think, irrespective of that, just the emotions of the last 3 days was all going to be a bit of a difficult, tricky one for us today. I thought first half we competed well. Probably could have had a second goal, which kind of would have made it sort of a little bit easier for us. Even in the second half, Brent's got a great opportunity, but you could tell in the last sort of 35 minutes we'd run out of legs, and kind of understandable from the players. Look, they've been outstanding with us this year. We've obviously, given them some difficult moments for sure, and like any supporter, they want their team to do well. They don't like losing games the way we have been. But the backdrop of that was also that we've given them a night and a couple of subsequent days that will live with them forever. And I think that was always the main driver. And I'm just super pleased that for all we've sort of been through this year as a club and our supporters have been through. I think the overriding emotion this year will be how they've felt the last 3 days.
Just on that, you said a while back you haven't succeeded in unifying the club. Given the scenes today, where do you feel you're at with that now?
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say I think the last few days have shown, how the club can be when it is. It's a massive club. It's got such a massive reach. People are very passionate about it. You've just seen, you've seen the sort of outpouring of emotions over the last 2 or 3 days. What it means to people, and that's something we need to build on. That's something we need to sort of tap into, and moving forward. That when we're all together like that, you show the force of the club, and that's what a trophy does. That's what doing something like we've done the last sort of couple of days does. I think it just means people feel that extra connection and want more of it.
Is that an argument for you staying
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've been finding it really weird talking about my future when, like I said, we've done something unprecedented. So I've had to answer the questions because no one else at the club is kind of in the position to do so, I guess. But I can't answer that question about me and my future. And like I said, part of me is kind of thinking, well, you know, why am I even I've been asked that question? But it is what it is, and I've got no doubt though that you know this could be a real sort of defining moment for this club because you know, like I said, wherever I've been, I've kind of you know made an impact where I've brought success to a club that hasn't had it for a while, and you just have to look at those clubs' trajectory. Even after I've left, they're still, you know, competing for things. And you know, I really think this is a moment in time where this club can really push on and you know be a real contender for honours on a yearly basis.
And you know we're all waiting to answer the question.
Yeah.
Presumably, the reason the ownership might be deliberating is the league campaign.
Hmm.
What can you say about why next season, if you do carry on, will be different than
Well, look, I think from my perspective, I made decisions that I felt were the best, going to give us the best chance for achieving the goal we needed to achieve this year, and that's affected, you know, our league form. If people don't want to take that into account, then there's nothing I can say to kind of explain it any better than that. I came to the club when it finished 8th. I didn't take over a club that finished 2nd. Had no European football to speak of. It lost the one player that probably guarantees you European football. That was my starting point. At the end of 2 years, I've got the club a trophy it's been crying out for, Champions League football. We finished 5th last year. Either people are saying last year was a huge anomaly for us to finish 5th, or you know this is what we deliver. I've got no doubt next year we'll be in a much stronger position in the league, challenging for the top places. I've got no doubt we'll tackle Champions League with the same determination that we tackled the Europa League. I have no doubts about that, and I think if people are seeking any more evidence about me, then there's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to convince them if they haven't seen it in the last 2 years.
And why are you so convinced about that? We know the injuries is obviously a really key part of this season. Is that an area where you think we do things differently?
I've already said that's part of it, but also, as I said, we signed 3 teenagers at the start of the year. Like we signed two 18-year-olds and a 19-year-old. We went that direction. So and think about who left last year, yeah? Okay, players with experience. So whenever you do that, there's always going to be a little bit of a gap in the development. So that cascading into our injury situation at the start of the year obviously had a massive effect on what we could do in the league. And again, it was our success in the Carabao Cup and our success in the Europa League that added to that as well. So you either assess it all in its totality, or you just separate it and say, well, you know what, it's just not good enough, or it's unbelievable. So you either fall into those categories. But you know, like I said, at the start of next year, that we'll be in a much better position from the point of view of even the 3 young boys we signed. You know, Lucas is not a young boy anymore. He's going to be a massive contributor. At the start of the year, you know, that wasn't the case. Archie and Wilson's hardly played this year. And if we do some good business in the transfer market, and like to bring some experience in, I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about players who have played at this level and, you know, can help the team, then I've got no doubt we can make the impact we want. Yeah, I think not just for us, any club that gets into the Champions League, I think understands that. I think that's, it's the most elite competition in Europe, and it's great demand. So yeah, I think every club that gets into Champions League sees it as an opportunity to strengthen with, like I said, experience probably not the right word, but players who have played at that level, who are going to be comfortable at that level, not players who are stepping up to that level. That's the difference, yeah.
And there's other futures to sort Cuti Romero's heavy link to move away. How key is it at Tottenham keeping him? And do you feel like you could be the man to actually keep him?
Yeah, look, I think Romero is absolutely important to keep at this football club. You just saw the way he's been in the last, and he hasn't been fully fit, to be fair to him, with his toe, but you've seen he's a World Cup winner. He's a winner, and you saw that in all the big games we've had, and I think the lads certainly respect him very highly, and he makes them tall, walk a bit taller. So, from my perspective, it's a no-brainer about, making sure that players like him, because, if he goes, who do you replace him with? There's not too many out there like him. So, it'd be very important for the club to try and retain him and retain him for the longer term, I think. My gut feeling? My gut feeling is that I feel right now that I've done something that no one believed I could. And I shouldn't be here sitting there talking about it. That's my feeling. But it is what it is. As I said, I'm, and probably I'm talking now because I'm tired, mate. And it's done. I don't have to think about another game, and I just want to go on a break and enjoy my family and reflect on being part of something unbelievably special. Unbelievably special. It's just, I say I've been fortunate to be in this position a number of times, but seeing those scenes yesterday and the people who've reached out to me and talked to me about, how it's affected and what's happened the last couple of days, that's just a beautiful thing, and I just want to enjoy that. And to be honest, the rest of it, I don't even want to be talking about it. It's just, I just think it's, it's unnecessary. No, but you're right to ask the question, but you, yeah, that's right. But you're asking the person who can't give you that answer. So that's, and I guess even for you guys, you wouldn't be asking it if there wasn't a doubt, right? So, but I can't answer it. There's nothing I can say that can answer that question. Other people can. So, from my perspective, it doesn't diminish the achievement. And like I said, I'm so confident about what we can build at this football club, and I want to push on and take it to the next level, and we'll see whether that happens or not.
Jerry, to finish, please.
Sorry.
Ange, when you came to the club, you knew the history of the club, you knew the size of the task. Seeing the reactions of fans over the last 3 to 5 days, has it even surprised you, this outpouring of emotion?
Yeah, like I said, I think especially, even yesterday, the day before, the parade, and it's just been overwhelming, yeah, but I understand it, because when you think about 17 years without any sort of silverware, that means, you work it out, what's that, 50 games a year that these supporters have, supported their football club with everything in their heart, and they haven't been able to enjoy a day like they have, for those, whatever, 900 games, whatever they are, I don't know what they are. And not only that, they've seen other clubs do it, which doubles the pain. And they've had no experience where they can reflect on it for themselves, for everything they've been through. So I understand it, and I knew that, there's, the legends were out there, and they're still remembered because of that, and there's been a lot of footballers that have come through these doors since then, world-class footballers, but they haven't made the impact that this group has, and I think they'll be remembered for that. So, I I love how it's made people feel really sort of, it's filled a massive hole that they've had for so long, that they now can proudly say their club is a trophy winner. It's a champion of a competition. There is no more this, slide of, yeah, you're a great club, but you've never won anything. That's done, and I'm super proud of it.